Hikaru was playing in the Louisiana State Championships, and now you're thinking, why on earth is he playing there?
Why on earth is he playing there?
Well, he wants to qualify for the candidates tournament, so he needs a minimum number of rated games to play. And well, if you go to Louisiana State Championship, you can play like 7 rated games in I think 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And well, we have a game he played in the third round of this event against someone with the name Jose Nahum Villamil, if I pronounce correctly. He's originally from Colombia, and he is rated almost 1,000 points lower than him.
I think that's a world record of our Underdog show so far. I mean, 1,000 points.
Yeah, it's quite extreme. And now you're thinking, nothing is bad going to happen to Hikaru. Well, watch this game, and there are some interesting moments to learn from.
Okay, I'm so curious now. So let's take a look.
Let's have a look. Hikaru is playing with the white pieces. He goes for 1c4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, g3. Basically, the first 10 moves there are kind of standard. We get a fianchettoed line against the King's Indian, something Hikaru has played a lot himself as well. But at least you can see that Villamil is really trying to get a sharp game. So that's nice. Black captures the pawn on d4, knight takes, rook e8, h3. This is all very well-known opening theory. Black is targeting the pawn on c5 in 3 different ways, and white adds a third defender to the pawn as well. And then black goes for the move a5. Actually, this is something I've played myself too, so I know a few things about this variation, mainly from the white side. White has more space, but at the same time, there are always targets. So black is trying to look for counterplay against these pawns in the center. With the last move a5, black is trying to secure the knight on c5, preventing the move b4. But at the same time, a move like knight db5 could be a drawback. That's something what I used to play. I like the knight on b5 here. It's becoming really difficult to get in c6, as that will weaken the pawn on d6. But well, there are many different ways of playing, and Hikaru played this move b3, which in a way also looks sensible, but you always got to watch out for some potential problems on this diagonal.
That's a diagonal if you ever have a diagonal.
Yeah, well, it cannot get better than that,
yes.
Right? So bishop d7, white played bishop f4, getting the bishop into the game, and black tried here this move, queen c8. Now, of course, it's clear that Hikaru is not going to fall for that threat. Pawn on h3 under attack. There are different ways to react to this move. From my experience, playing these lines, I would have probably played automatically this move, king h2.
Yeah, me too.
Just controlling the pawn, supporting the pawn for a second time. But Hikaru played a bit more aggressive. He played this move, g4, which is not an uncommon thing in those lines, but it comes with responsibility when you're pushing these pawns.
So I quickly have to ask, this was a blitz game, or like it was a really classical game, right?
This was a classical game. You got it right. It's a FIDE-rated event.
Wow.
Classical time control. To be honest, I'm not sure about the time control. I think it was 90 minutes plus 30 seconds increment. Probably no additional time on move 40.
Okay.
But it's a serious game. And basically in all those games Hikaru was playing, he was playing really fast, like putting the opponents under pressure from the very start. That's, of course, often the strategy you often see when stronger players are playing against lower rated ones. Especially Hikaru likes that way to put pressure on the opponents. So after this move g4, black played principled move h5. So this is getting interesting. What do you think? How would you deal with the threat of pawn takes g4?
Well, that doesn't look nice, right? Because black will simply win a pawn, I would say. So either
allow that, yeah.
Either play f3 or maybe even g5 and just. But then, yeah, g5 is also. Is g5 working?
It's very interesting. f3 was played in the game. I quickly show you. In case of g5, the knight has to go back to h7.
Yeah.
And the pawn on h3 is under an attack again. And now basically the knight on h7 is out of play, but there are two possibilities to let the knight rejoin. First of all, there's this plan of playing f6, challenging the pawn on g5. And another plan could be to reroute the knight via f8 to e6. And things are not looking too bad for black. In the game, there followed the move f3. Impressive pawn chain, but it also feels a bit weakening to me at least.
Yeah, especially the bishop on g2 is a little sad for now. Maybe
that becomes a factor later on as well. Now, a lot of possibilities. Play is far from forcing at all. A typical idea in those structures with a pawn on b3 is to challenge the pawn chain on that side of the board as well, but you gotta reckon with something like b4. What happens if the knight gotta move again? In the game, black decided to play without this move a4, but probably it's a better idea to do so. With knight e6 on the board, attacking the bishop, at least black succeeds in trading off one pair of minor pieces, so white captured on e6. What do you think? How would you recapture here with which piece?
I can tell you it looks... So we have to calculate if we even recapture, because in the air is knight takes e4. It doesn't look as if it's working though, but...
Yeah, well, keep it simple. White has just captured a piece, so...
Yes, okay, yeah, it is a little too much. So the rook doesn't look very natural. Bishop looks the most natural. Pawn might be interesting to maybe push forward either on d or e and open up the game a little bit more. I think the most normal thing would be taking with the bishop though.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that black took here with a rook. I also don't like the move that much. I think if you take with the bishop, you still have a bit of pressure against this pawn, but most importantly, you create a new square for the knight to come over to d7.
Yeah.
And later on to c5, you open up the diagonal for the bishop. I think that's the way to go. To me, it looks like the most sensible plan for black. But rook takes e6 was played, and to me, it feels like the queen and the bishop, they look a bit strange with this rook on.
What was the idea behind it? Any idea why this was?
Well, what happens in the game is after queen d2, the bishop goes to c6, and after rook ad1, the queen went to e8. So apparently this was black's idea. He wanted to opt for this setup. And now the thing is with the pawn on f3, okay, white's pawns are pretty well supported, so there's not real pressure. That's why I don't like the rook on e6 that much. But let's see. Knight e2 was played here, intending to come over to d4.
Looks very good.
Pawn takes g4. Of course, you take back with the h pawn. And knight e7. That's what we expected to come at this point. And now this move, knight d4. White's continuing with a plan. How would you react here, Arne? And the viewers, of course.
I would probably scream in agony and go like, why? No, but I would, yeah. So, of course, the question is, do you take with the bishop? But the bishop is so important, so strong. It needs to defend the king. It needs to have this open, beautiful line. So there's no question. You cannot take it with the bishop. So perhaps the only reasonable move is to take the rook to e7. But having said all of this, maybe this will be a sacrifice of the rook.
Well, actually, rook e7 looks like a very logical move, but it was not played. You'll be surprised. Bishop takes knight on the board.
It is happening.
Black gave up that main defender. And it's actually a very good move. White got to take back with the queen. And why did black give up that bishop? Well, the rook is more stable now, so it doesn't have to move. And I think black is able to set up some sort of a blockade in the center. Probably the most precise move is f6. Was not played in the game. Queen e7 was played, and Hikaru went here for bishop d2. You see that black is missing his dark squared bishop, and white is trying to take advantage of it by setting up a battery of queen and bishop, trying to exploit the weakened dark squares. But very important moment here. How should black deal with this potential problem on the dark squares?
That's a good question, isn't it? Maybe try to swap queens. Is this even working?
Well, that was actually played in the game. It's in a way, it's a very, very understandable move, but it's not a good one. I'm going to tell you more about it soon.
Okay, yeah, I'm not so happy about it either. I wonder if the knight plays a bigger role in this. For example, what would just happen with knight e5? If f4, then can knight even take on g4?
Right, then the pawn on g4 is going to be hanging, so f4 doesn't work, but you would like to play f4. So how is white going to prepare that move f4 if you realize this pawn on g4 is going to be hanging?
Is it bishop h3? This is so disgusting.
What are you doing?
No, it cannot work. It cannot work.
Be careful, there are always knight forks if the bishop moves away from g2. That's not good.
I mean, I'm 10 points higher rated than Nahum Jose, and I'm thinking about bishop h3. I'm very sorry. Okay. So...
Well, in this case, knight e5 is not a good move. It's the right idea, but the wrong execution. The thing is, white would play here g5 with the idea to go f4, kick the knight away, and then the bishop will come to c3, and black is no longer able to control these dark squares. So what you need to do instead is to start here with this move, g5. This would have been an excellent move, just to secure the square on e5 for the knight.
Okay.
Everything is well protected. You cover the f4 square, and I don't see how white is gonna break through here. Well, there are various ideas, like you can swing the rook over to h6. You can play f6, king g7, rook h8. White can do the same. White can move his king to f2, can bring the rooks to the h file. But black is rock solid. And thanks to this blockade with pawn on f6 and g5, that bishop on g2 will remain out of play.
Interesting. g5 is really powerful, yeah.
I think, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but if black would have played this, there would have been pretty good chances to hold a draw as black, even against Hikaru Nakamura. It's not that black can do much, but white neither. So, but it's of course a difficult concept to find to make these pawn moves in front of your king. But as said, I think the position is quite solid for black. Instead, there followed queen f6, and now, remarkably enough, Hikaru didn't play the best move. What he should have done here is exchange queens. And it's kind of untypical. I think Hikaru loves to play these type of positions where queens come off the board and he can keep pressing forever. And the thing is that in a position like after exchanging on f6 and bring the king, the plan is really straightforward. You're trying to double the rooks on the h file, put a bishop on c3, setting up some very strong threats against the black king on the dark squares, and you can even consider pushing the pawn to g5 at the right moment. It's a very nice position and not too difficult. So I'm a bit surprised why Hikaru decided to keep queens on the board. And my guess is that he underestimated black's counterplay. Maybe he was thinking about moves like bishop c3, queen h6, and tried to play for checkmate himself.
Yeah. This is what I also just saw. It looks tempting.
But there follows queen h4, which is an excellent move.
What I also thought, yeah.
And now white went g5. Black goes f6. And you can imagine that if you're playing too slow as white here and you get a rook into the game and maybe a knight comes in, maybe white's king can become vulnerable as well. So Hikaru now decided to offer the exchange of queens anyway, which feels like you're giving up some tempi to get these queens off the board. Queen takes g5, queen takes, f takes, bishop takes. What do you think? How would you assess this position now? Of course, queens have been exchanged, but also the f pawn is no longer there. So maybe white's center is a bit better. Do you think white is better here, or?
Well, the classic I have the bishop pair might, of course, play a significant role after all if white manages to open up the field a little more, but it looks difficult because the knight on d7 looks... Oh, but bishop h3 is a bit...
You got to reckon with these kind of activation ideas. That's correct.
I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I think white is a little better.
White is definitely a bit better. Not too much, actually, but things are not that simple. However, I'm a bit surprised by black's next move. If you would give me this position in a blitz game, probably I would automatically go for rook f8.
Yeah, it looks very sensible.
I really feel like you need to bring the remaining piece into the game, making it harder for the bishop to move away because you're targeting the pawn on f3. Anyway, knight e5 was played, and now I think Hikaru really enjoys his position again. He went for king f2, which is a great move. Rook f8 played now anyway, and the king comes to g3. So the difference, by the way, starting with this move, rook f8, first of all, king f2 would not have been possible because the pawn on e4 is hanging thanks to this pin. What white could have done in that case, though, is bring the king to h2. And I think there are some additional plans, like, for instance, if the king comes to g3, I think it could be nice to have a knight on f6 instead. So the knight can come to h5. And then you have more control over the f4 square. It will be harder for white to push the pawns eventually.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. In the game, with the king on g3, I think white has all the cards here again. Like simple plans of double on the h file. Bishop on g5 looks good, but there are also plans of getting it back to c3, from where it can hit the dark squares near the black king. It's a very easy position to play now for white, and I think that Villamil understood that prospect, and he tried to do something with b5. He's looking for counterplay. You don't want to sit and wait all the time against nobody, but especially not against Hikaru. But I think now his position goes from worse to basically a lost one. So white captured on b5, bishop takes back, and now very nice technical move because black probably wants to play a4 and initiate the exchange of more pawns. White plays a4 himself here, not only to attack the bishop got a move, but it's mainly to fix that pawn on a5. So the bishop went back to e8. Now we can attack the pawn on a5 right away, but bishop h6 is also a nice move to force the rook to go to a slightly inferior square. It went to f6, and here the bishop comes into d2, and you see the pawn on a5 can no longer be protected.
Very difficult with knight c6, but then I guess...
Actually, you're right. I forgot about that move. The knight could go to c6 still, but the problem in that case...
f4 and e5.
So many ideas. There are tactical ideas indeed to try to hit the knight. I was also thinking, how about a move like bishop c3 to hit the rook, and if the rook goes away...
Yeah, that's even more convincing.
Yeah. Now you see the absence of black's dark squared bishop. It's black got to pay the price for that. So yeah, now the knight, it started to move over the board. Knight d3, attacking the rook on e1, rook h1. And anyway, I think bishop c3 is the main threat. Knight will be hanging. I think black realized that the position it's quite desperate anyway. He tried here d5, but I think black lost his mind here anyway. So I was thinking, what's the idea of this move? I didn't really get it. I think you can even take the pawn, but Hikaru found a better move. Can you see it?
Is it still bishop c3 or?
Actually, even that is bishop c3, maybe knight e5. Well, no, it's also going to win a pawn. Bishop c3 is good. In the game, another bishop move was played.
Oh,
here.
it's bishop f1, or no, even bishop h3 now.
No, another one.
Bishop g5.
Excellent, very nice. Bishop g5 with basically an double attack against both the knight on d3.
Why didn't I
and the rook
see
on
that?
f6.
Yeah, of course.
Black tried
goodness.
this. Pawn takes e4, bishop takes rook takes back, pawn takes e4. Now, basically the last interesting moment of the game, knight f2 was played. Probably black had been counting on this knight fork. What do you think? How should white play?
I think it's very easy to just get the h rook to f1.
Yeah, not the d rook.
That would still...
The knight can take the rook with check. And that would still have been some work to do there for Hikaru. He took the right rook hf1, attacking the knight. And after knight takes, rook takes f6. White is up the exchange. And, well, there are too many pawn weaknesses. I mean, if black would be able here to trade off the remaining pawns, it could still be a draw, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately, for him. Bishop f7, rook a6, bishop takes pawn, rook takes pawn. Yeah, so now you have an outside passed pawn, which is basically unstoppable. Knight c3, you're trying to win that pawn still. Rook a8 check, forcing the king to move. Then the a pawn comes forward, and that pawn is just simply out of reach. After knight takes e4, second pawn is eliminated, but the king can just go away. And as said, the pawn will be promoted. You can even move the rook somewhere, even with tempo, and then go a8 queen. And this is the moment where black resigned.
What a pity!
I would nothing against Hikaru, but I would have loved to see a big upset.
Of course, not
rating points. Yeah.
It is these games which make it so beautiful. And let's get back to this last critical position where the knight was perhaps. You mentioned there was one move which would have probably could have decided the game for black.
I mean, this idea with the idea with g5, knight e5?
Exactly, yes. So, this is a move. I think it can be found. It's probably difficult, especially g5 is the thing which, differentiates the master from the normal player, maybe, but still, it is. I found moves like this, and 1900 players can find something like this.
Yeah, I think it's just when you play against a so much stronger player, you start to doubt yourself.
Of course,
it's justified to make these pawn moves against somebody of his own rating. Maybe the black player would have easier made a decision to go for this setup. But if you play this setup, the interesting thing is that you don't really have to do anything special. You just got to sit and wait. And I don't know. I think for Hikaru, it would have been quite a frustrating position. What he would have done in that case is probably try to push on the queen side, try to find an entry over there.
I thought you might try to double up the rooks on the h file.
Yeah, that's what black should do. I mean, if black is able to generate that counterplay and white gotta bring his rooks over to the h file as well, it could be that a lot of pieces are going to be swapped, and then white is simply unable to generate play on the queen side.
And then it is so frustrating for the player who needs to win that they might even go for something radical. Yeah, who knows?
Exactly. So, it's. I would have liked to see another underdog story in this episode, but anyway, I think it was quite a
close enough,
quite an experience. Yeah, world's number 2 playing against somebody 1000 rated.
Probably
low rated. Yeah,
like you at home, maybe. Who knows? So never give yourself up, even if your opponent is rated 1000 points more than you. Sometimes it can happen.
Exactly.
With having this said, thank you so much, Robert. It was a joy.
Thank you, Arne.